What's up, guys? So before we jump right in, I just wanted to bring attention to this. I made a workbook for you guys and you can download it for free. So today we're going to be going through and talking about using your Nikon Z5 in manual mode. If you don't already know how, I'll be showing you where the controls are and explaining them just a bit. But if you download this will actually really help you with more information about shooting in manual mode, exposure, and all that kind of stuff. So definitely get that. And then also this video will actually work if you have a Z6, Z7, Z50, because the Nikons are all very similar. So let's jump right into the video. The first thing you're going to want to do is change it to manual mode. So you'll want to change that there. Okay guys, so when we're dealing with portraiture, the first thing we're going to want to do is set up how our camera meters. So we hit the I button here and that will bring up that menu. And then you'll scroll over to here and you'll see that, okay? And you'll want to put it on spot metering if you don't already have it there. There's center weighted, there's matrix. Now matrix meters the entire scene. So we want to do spot metering because where we actually put our spot, our focal point is how it's going to meter the light. I use back focus, which means that I use this button here to actually focus instead of pushing this one halfway down. So if you're going to push halfway down, then you want to put your spot on the thing you're going to meter, which of course is going to be the person's skin, right? Now your meter is over here on the side. Inside your viewfinder, it's down at the bottom, I believe, for the Z5. And it's going to go left and right. But you'll see this meter here. Now what this is saying is that I am slightly overexposing. So your goal, and this is just your basic goal, this is not advanced. When we get to advanced, this is going to change. But your goal is to get your meter down to the 0 for what you're exposing for, which would be the skin of your subject. If it's too far above it, then it's going to be blown out, which means it's overexposed or too bright. If it's too far below it, then that means it's going to be too dark. Now, in advanced classes, we actually don't put the meter right in the middle when we're exposing, but we will go over that much later. This is just a quick start to get you using your actual Z5. So the first thing I change is my aperture. The aperture you change with the dial. It's up here on the front of your camera. So near the lens, it's where you push the button to take your picture, it's the dial in front of it and it turns, okay? Here is the dial right here for the aperture. So I like to take pictures at wide open, and this means a very wide aperture. The aperture is your F number where it says f1.8. Your aperture is your opening for how much light is going to be let in for your pictures, but your aperture also decides what all is in focus and what isn't, so how much depth of field that you have. Since I like to have really blurry backgrounds, I'm going to use a larger aperture, which is designated as a smaller number. So f1.8 is going to be my starting point. I'm also going to take my ISO, which your ISO button is up here, right? So if you take your picture with this button, your ISO button is down here. And you're going to press your ISO button, and then you're going to turn this back dial to take your ISO as low as you can to get your highest dynamic range. Here is the ISO button, and you just push that down and change this. Now that looks very dark, doesn't it? So we're going to change our shutter speed to get where we need to go. Your shutter speed changes with this dial right here. Now, according to our meter, that is now about the right exposure. Paulo, can I see your face please, bud? Can I see your face, buddy? Come on now. Put your shirt down, please. All right, so now we're gonna take the picture and then we're gonna look at our histogram. Okay, so now we're gonna look at the histogram. And it's showing me that it's actually pretty good. There's spots that might be blown out. You can see the line that goes all the way up here at the end. That means that there's probably the background that's blown out because I can see where there's really bright spots. But the histogram is really supposed to go from one end to the other, and it does that. So it's saying that our exposure is good. My exposure was 200th of a second, and that works because I'm using an 85mm lens. But if I was using something like a 400mm lens, 1/200th of a second wouldn't work while I was hand holding it. And the reason is because the shutter speed would be too slow and there would be camera shake going on. So a good rule of thumb is whatever your focal length is of your lens. So this is my 85mm lens, which you know it's 85mm because it says it on the actual lens. So if you look here, it says 85. Then the slowest shutter speed you're going to want to go is 85th of a second or 100th of a second. If you do shake like I do, I'd shake more than most people, then you might want to go 100th of a second, 1/25th of a second, just because you know that you shake. So your shutter speed is measured by how fast your shutter is going to open and close. So a slower shutter speed is going to mean that you're introducing blur, or there could be an introduction of blur or motion into your photo. So now we're going to look at what happens if we use something like f8. So that means we're going to have more in focus and we're going to have less light let in. Okay, see how it's really dark? Now my shutter speed, I'm only going to want to go down to about that. That means I'm going to have to raise my ISO up. Okay. So now we're going to take this picture, and as you see, there's going to be more in focus in the picture. The leaves and everything are in focus. And if we go even higher, even more is going to be in focus. Now, I personally like to have less in focus with portraiture. So the first thing, like I said, I start with is going to be the aperture. And if you're nervous about shooting wide open, 1.8, or whatever yours is, go to f2 or something like that, or even a little bit further. And then that way you can feel a little bit more comfortable, because when you shoot wide open, you're going to miss a lot of shots, or you have the ability to miss a lot more shots accidentally. Okay, so also the distance from the background is going to play a part in how blurry or how sharp the background is. Now what I've done is switched out to my 50mm lens since I'm inside and there's less space. I'm shooting at 1.4, ISO 500, and 80th of a second. Now, as you can see, the lights are going to be more in focus than, just like if you had trees or anything like that, than if we pull the subject further away from the background. So let's do that right quick. Okay, so now we're gonna take this picture with the same settings, and you'll see all the, what we call bokeh in the background. And that's because it's further away from the background. Thank you so much for watching today, guys. If you learned something, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, because sharing is caring. And I will see you guys next time. Don't forget your download, and thank you so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.